Welcome back to the Movie Man. Today I will show you a 2019 American horror, dark comedy film, Ready or Not. Spoilers ahead, watch out, and take care. At the beginning of the movie, two brothers, namely Daniel and Alex, are running scared inside the house. Daniel then ordered Alex, his younger brother, to hide in the cupboard. A moment later, a man came with fear asking for help from Daniel to get out of the house because the man would be killed. Instead of helping, Daniel screamed and told the other occupants of the house the whereabouts of the man, and then a group of masked people came after him and immediately shot the poor man with arrows. Then Helene, the bride who was the man's partner, could only cry hysterically over her partner who had fainted. The masked men then took the man to a room marked Ladomus. 30 years later, a woman named Grace is practicing her vows because she will soon marry Alex, the man of her dreams. Alex is Daniel's younger brother who at the beginning of the film was told to hide in a cupboard by Daniel, his older brother, and they are now adults. They talked and then Grace said that she felt that all the families present looked strange, especially the Ladomus family, who didn't like her because they thought that if Grace married Alex she was only after his wealth. For information that the Ladomus family is the richest toy entrepreneur in the world. A moment later Daniel came and ordered them to calm down. Strangely, Daniel told Grace if she changed her mind then Grace could cancel her wedding right then and there. Even Alex also said the same thing to Grace, but because Grace loved Alex, she still wanted to continue the marriage. That night when Grace was going to make out with her husband, she was surprised by the sudden presence of Helene. Helene told them to immediately go to the music room because a game was about to start. Alex then explained to his wife that the Ladomus family had a tradition, where if family members got married they would play a game to honor their ancestors. It can be seen that Alex's mother was chatting with Grace to get to know each other, but suddenly Alex appeared and took his wife away from his mother. A moment later, Emily, Alex's younger sister, arrived with her husband and son. The game in question began, and the father ordered everyone to enter the Ladomus room. The father said that his father used to be a poor sailor, until finally, he met someone who gave him a challenge to open a box. If he managed to open it then all the contents in the box would be his. He managed to open the box and in an instant, his fate changed from poor to rich. Then he opened a toy factory that was growing rapidly, and this made the grandfather the richest toy entrepreneur in the world. Since then they all have to play a game at exactly midnight as a tribute to their ancestors. Each new member of the Ladomus family must draw a card from the heritage box. On the card, an inscription will appear about what game they will play later. Grace then pulls out a card that says hide and seek game. Instantly everyone who saw it was shocked, but they still tried to stay calm in front of Grace so she wouldn't get suspicious. Father then told Grace to hide until morning, while the others would try to find her. Grace immediately went into hiding. Then the maid played a song indicating that the game of hide and seek had begun. Grace casually went into hiding, while her father was giving each of them weapons to hunt down Grace later. Alex looked saddened by this fact and his mother asked him not to go anywhere, while the father, who was afraid that Alex would save his wife, ordered Daniel's wife to keep him from leaving the room. Meanwhile, the maid is surprised to find that one of Emily's children is not in the room. Grace, who is bored in her hiding place, leaves to find a new hiding place. When Grace was sneaking around, suddenly Alex pulled her into a room. It turned out that Alex had managed to escape through the maid's room. Not long after, the maid came in looking for Emily's child. Grace was shocked when Emily shot the maid right in front of her. Emily seems to have the wrong target. She suspects that the maid is Grace. Hearing the gunshots, the others come. The mother, who knew that her servant had been shot, then ordered the body of the poor maid to be removed so that Grace would not know about it. After everyone left, Alex then asked Grace to run away. Meanwhile, Grace, who was still in shock, asked her husband to tell her what happened. Then Alex explained that this was a crazy tradition of the Ladomus family, as explained earlier. Grace, who heard that, was very upset because Alex never said it. Alex promised that he would save his wife. Alex then told Grace to wait in the kitchen because it was easier, while Alex would look for the key to the kitchen door first. Shortly before arriving at the kitchen, There were 2 doors, so Grace forgot which door she should choose. Grace confidently opened one of the doors, which was not the kitchen door. Apparently, they were all there and immediately shot Grace. Luckily, Grace managed to escape and ran into a room. When she was about to break a window and run away, suddenly heard the sound of footsteps. Grace hides, but Daniel suddenly appears from the door next to her. Daniel says that he has no intention of arresting her. Daniel then gives Grace 10 seconds to escape before she is spotted by the others, after which Daniel screams that Grace is in the room with him. When she found out that Grace had run away, her father was angry, while Emily realized that the weapon she was carrying was missing, so she took an archer from her husband. Again, they randomly shot when a servant was about to tell Grace's whereabouts. Instead of being concerned, they laughed at that. The father then suggested turning on the CCTV so he could find out Grace's whereabouts. At first Helene did not agree because it was not according to tradition, but in the end, they all agreed. Meanwhile, Grace manages to get a gun hanging on the wall. She then goes to the kitchen, but the exit is still locked. Grace hid when a maid came. She slowly loaded a bullet and pointed at the maid to open the door. The maid was not afraid at all because she thought that the weapon was just a display. Panicked and cornered, Grace then hit the maid's head with a pot of hot water and ran away. Like and subscribe may look simple for you, but for us, it's precious. Please like, subscribe, and press the bell icon for the latest notifications. Thank you for being so supportive. Alex, who witnessed this from the CCTV room, was relieved that Grace had managed to escape, while his suspicious father then broke into the CCTV room. It's good that Alex destroyed all the CCTV footage first, so that made his father angry. His father immediately attacked Alex. Fortunately, Daniel was able to separate the two of them, but his father immediately hit Alex's head from behind until he fainted. Grace, who was going to escape via the food elevator, was shocked when she found a maid there. She then told her to get out. The maid finally gave her hiding place to Grace, but she sneakily shouted that Grace was with her. But the servant got her karma. The elevator moved by itself so that it crushed her body and killed her. The father became very angry when the maid, who was doused with hot water by Grace, reported that another maid had been crushed to death by the elevator. Helene asks her father not to be too hard on Alex, as he is the successor when his father grows old and dies. The giver of the cursed box was the incarnation of the devil, so their grandfather made a pact with the condition that whoever opened the box would be sacrificed. Worse, Alex is the person who opened the box earlier, so he will be the next victim. Meanwhile, Alex heard all the conversation, and Grace also heard it from behind the window while hiding. Grace then jumped down and ran. She hid in the shed, but someone was following her. Turns out it was Emily's son who had run away. Grace came out of hiding and thought that the boy wouldn't hurt her, but she was wrong. The boy shot her in the hand. Grace then beat him unconscious and took his gun. She was shocked by the appearance of a goat, which made her fall into a hole filled with many sacrificial corpses from the Ladomas family. Grace was very scared and tried to get out of the place. Unfortunately, when she was about to reach the top, the ladder suddenly broke, making it difficult for her. When Grace's hand was about to reach the top floor without realizing that there were nails that stuck into her hand, with extreme pain, Grace desperately tried to go up with one hand. While Daniel's wife sees Grace heading for the gate, she orders the maids to chase after her. Grace screamed for help at a passing car, but to no avail. Grace then tried to escape through the sidelines of the slightly open gate, and the iron on the gate sliced her back. Feeling still not safe, Grace went into the forest. The maid immediately chased her. Daniel and Emily are seen disposing of the bodies of the Ladomas servants who had died earlier when Emily's son calls out to them saying that he managed to shoot Grace. Grace was finally caught by the maid, but she managed to fight back by choking the maid to faint. Grace went to the car and called 911. It turned out that the car was so sophisticated that it could turn off automatically if someone was driving it. Grace was trapped in the car, and it turned out that the maid was still alive. He broke the windshield of the car and immediately drugged her. The maid brought Grace back to the house and reported it to the Ladomas family. Grace then woke up and immediately beat the maid until the car overturned. Grace survived and tried to get out of the car, but Daniel was already there and pointed a gun at her. Grace begs to let her go, but Daniel instead hits her with the weapon until she is unconscious. Meanwhile, Alex's mother meets her son, who is still tied up, asking why Alex left the house. Alex says that if he doesn't want to follow that cruel and misleading tradition anymore, he threatens that if his mother hurts Grace, then he will not hesitate to kill her. Her mother is disappointed that Alex is defending Grace, whom she just met, rather than defending his own family. After Grace was brought home, the Ladomas family began the ritual. Grace was lying on the table with her hands tied. One by one, the Ladomas family drank water from the glass that had been prepared. When the father was about to stab Grace, suddenly everyone vomited blood. It turned out that Daniel had mixed the drink with a chemical so he could save Grace. Unfortunately, the effects of the drink only last for a while. Then they go back to chasing Grace and Daniel. Daniel's wife caught them and was angry because she did not expect her husband could save Grace. Then she shot him and hit his neck. Grace reciprocated by hitting the woman unconscious. Then she held Daniel's neck, who was shot. At that critical moment, Daniel told Grace to leave the cursed house. Grace then left, but she met Alex's father because it was absurd. Then Grace hit her father-in-law with a lamp so that it burned the curtains. Alex, who was also about to run away when he saw his brother lying dead, felt shocked and saddened by the loss of his beloved brother. When Grace was about to leave the house, Alex's mother suddenly appeared and shot her but missed. She immediately approached Grace and strangled her. Grace was also critical, but she managed to pull off the tablecloth where there was a box on it. Grace tried to take the box, but her mother-in-law kept choking her. Grace also managed to beat her mother-in-law by hitting her with her head. Incredibly annoyed, Grace then hit her mother-in-law's head many times using the box. Suddenly Grace heard Alex's voice calling her. Grace was frightened when she saw her husband in a state where he had killed his mother. Alex tries to convince his wife that he is not like the rest of his family. When Grace begins to melt and how sneaky Alex is when he screams to tell the others that Grace is with him. The whole Ladomas family came. They continued Grace's sacrifice ritual before sunrise. This time it was Alex himself who was going to kill Grace out of spite that Grace had killed Daniel. When Grace was just about to be stabbed by a knife, suddenly the sun rose, which scared everyone there. In the end, nothing happened to each of them because of the sunlight, but Helene still wanted to kill Grace as a sacrifice even though it was too late. When Helene was about to shoot Grace, suddenly she exploded to pieces. Then there was the sound of the music being played while playing hide and seek last night. Then one by one the Ladomas families exploded, while Grace, who witnessed this, all laughed with satisfaction. Now there was only her and Alex left. Alex begged Grace to forgive everything he had done, and said that he still loved Grace. But Grace, who was fed up with Alex, said that she wanted a divorce from him, and Alex also exploded. After that Grace left the Ladomas family house, which started to burn. That was all of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.